And that brings us to our conversation today, which centers around domestic investment, which is one of the economic processes that countries attach great importance to for economic growth. However, Nigeria's domestic investment is said not to be growing over time. And with the recent announcement of a plan by Shoprite to exit the country, many believe that it's time Nigerians learned to invest here in Nigeria. But let's talk more about this with the development economist and the chairman, Pan-African Development Corporation, Mr. Odilim Enwegbara, who joins us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning, Mr. Enwegbara. Thanks for coming on the program. I'm sure you saw that report now. For some people, whether Shoprite or not, Nigerians should actually invest more in Nigeria. What's your take on that?
Let me start with Shoprite, because since 2010, I've been studying Shoprite. And I will tell you that Shoprite did not come to Nigeria to stay for so long. It came to take advantage of the loopholes in the economy, especially in the retail economy. And once it sees that it can no longer take advantage of that because there are more Nigerians entering into the retail market. And also, Shoprite is already aware that the era of physical stores is increasingly being over. And online shopping will replace it, especially with COVID-19 fast-tracking it. So Shoprite is making a strategic decision in its own interest. And why should Nigerians be bothered? What Shoprite has been doing since 2005 is to go around China and South Africa, bring cheap goods and market them to Nigerians and repatriate the profit. There's no value proposition that Shoprite brings to the economy. There's no value addition Shoprite brings to the economy. So why are we actually saying things that we are supposed to be actually celebrating?
How about the Nigerians that are actually employed by Shoprite? Because you're saying that there's no value that, Shoprite is bringing to the economy. Well, look at it in terms of the employment that it has created over the years.
I think we have to be very careful here. We are talking about small businesses that are supposed to employ millions of Nigerians that have been priced out of the market because cheap goods from China and South Africa displace them. And they are telling me about 2,000 people. 2,000 people is the number of people a small company can employ. So let's be realistic here. Unless we don't want to industrialize this country, unless we don't want to create jobs, unless we want to continue to export our currency, our forex, and in exchange for poverty. So I'm against this job creation. Shoprite, tell me the Shoprite facilities in Nigeria. Shoprite has built no shops in Nigeria. Shoprite does its operation, including its office, on rented facilities. If Shoprite came to Nigeria to stay, Shoprite would have invested in small businesses in Nigeria so that those small businesses would be supplied over 70% of its goods, the goods it sells. If that is the case now, Shoprite will not be under pressure to need forex. Shoprite is the major consumer, if not one of the major, if not the major consumer of forex in this country. So why should we encourage such? Let Nigerians take advantage of that. I will tell you for sure that look at Amazon.com. Amazon.com has replaced Walmart. And whether you like it or not, any Nigerian investing in Shoprite is making a very, very bad investment decision. Because in the next 3 or 4 years, we phase out physical stores. Whether you like it or not, in the next 3 years with COVID-19, we phase out.
Where does this leave us in terms of attracting foreign direct investment into the country?
I like that question. No country has been built or developed by foreigners. If you look at American history, America in 1792, Alexander Hamilton, who was the first Secretary of Treasury, decided that they will block imports so that American infant industries will spring up and compete with the British companies. And so it goes on and goes on all countries. So this issue of foreign investors, we have enough local investors. All we need to do is to motivate local investors, and they will take over these things. Nigerians are highly gifted people. They're entrepreneurs. They're big businessmen, big risk takers. The problem is the environment for them has been very, very hostile. And I think this government is doing something fantastic, especially the MFLA-led CBN. By intervening with a special fund, interest-free, collateral-free, to give to small businesses. That is the route we are going to follow. Another thing is to make it difficult for foreigners to take over our market so that local competitors will participate in the market. And when they do that, they really create jobs and sustain the economy. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, we are going to take this is a blessing in disguise. I want all of them to leave so that Nigerians will fill in the gap. And Nigerians can fill in the gap when the enabling environment is created. One, we have to make sure that...
opinion that you want them to leave. But it's also important to know that, of course, we also want to attract foreign investment into the country. But tell us now, what's the state of domestic direct investments in Nigeria today when you compare with foreign direct investments?
You see, the problem, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. If you create enabling environment for Nigerian investors, for example, I have always said it time without number, that we must move away from dirty float of Naira to clean float of the Naira, so that Naira will be determined by market forces. When you do that, you now encourage investors, local investors, to know that the value of the Naira is determined by goods and services that for the market forces. Another thing is the ability to allow Nigerian investors to take advantage of the huge consumer market. If you open your market up, as we have done over the years, foreigners will come in with cheap goods and services, and continuously, because it's easier for them to bring in these goods than to make them locally. It is easier for them to displace our local investors and discourage them. And one of the local investors, I'm investing in COVID-19 products. I'm investing in agro businesses. And I will tell you that the fierce competition that comes from overseas is too much. But if it is a local competition, you will find a way to adjust, because you're competing at the same level. But if the cost of money in China is 0.01% and cost of money in Nigeria is 30%, how do you want a Nigerian manufacturer or producer to compete with the Chinese, or South Africa, where it is about 6 or 7%? So these are the things that I will tell you that this government is doing. For example, I like the CBN intervention. And also, I want the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to intervene in this area and come up with a national policy of trade diplomacy, so that we stop foreigners from coming here and set up a retail trade and bringing goods from their own country and displace our local, both the local shops that actually market in their communities and both the manufacturers of these goods. Tell me how many companies Shoprite has actually had equity in order to groom them up and in order to take advantage of their supply chains.
But we also have Nigerian retailers who actually bring in these goods from China as you speak. What would you say about that?
That is where I've been telling the Ministry of the Fiscal Authority people, we must not continue to have our cake and eat it. We must not continue to pretend that we must have our cake and eat it. We must make it difficult for imports, because it is when you make it difficult for imports that the local producers will go back to work. Remember that during the Nigerian Civil War, there was nothing coming to Biafra. So Biafra has to adjust and created everything themselves. We must go to that, because that's what China did starting from 1982. And that's what India did also. That's what South Korea did in 1962. And many countries have done that. Why should we want to have our cake and eat it? We must make it difficult. I need a bill from National Assembly that will make it that you cannot display in your shop, no matter the shop, over 20% of imported goods. It must be 80% locally made goods, and then you can take 20%. That way, you see people going to small businesses to partner with them to produce this and that, orange juice, that and that. But you see, when you allow foreigners to bring finished goods, what you are doing is that you are discouraging local production, and you are encouraging importation. And especially when the forex is artificially kept strong. Because actually, when the CBN intervenes in the forex, CBN is actually strengthening the Naira artificially. So let's allow the Naira to float, what we call clean floating. Let it clean float, so that there will be competition on whoever gets Naira at a certain rate, knows that's the market value, and he knows that tomorrow it might change. So that's what I'm saying.
But how much of local production can actually go on in the country looking at the environment? Do we actually have an enabling environment for local production to thrive?
You see, I've given you an example, so I don't know how I'm going to repeat myself. But what I'm saying in essence is that if government should encourage, as CBN is doing, and I want the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to come up, we need an equity bank. We need an equity bank that will invest in small businesses. As soon as you have because what we have been having in this country is debt investment. Commercial banks want you to bring your great-grandma for you to get a loan. And they bring all the things you have to get a loan, and they don't care whether you succeed or not. All they care is to take over your assets and things like that. But when we have an equity bank, and that is what all the countries are moving towards now because of what we call knowledge economy, you see government participating in the economy, having equity in businesses that will become blockbusters. And as a result, so many Nigerians will go into entrepreneurial business because they will see a partner waiting for them. But the problem now is there's no partner waiting for Nigerians. If you go to bank, they will make mockery of you for months, they frustrate you, and you get out and you go join those who trade. Because what banks do is to give you money to go and trade. They don't give you money to go and produce. So these are the adjustments I want to take place. And I'm very happy that the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is doing something towards this. And the CBN intervention must be moved from being CBN intervening to a new bank that will actually understand the intervention, must also be followed up with technical, managerial, and the market support to those who you invest your money in. That's the only way we can go. Any other thing is, we will be speaking grammar. Any other thing is academic. And I'm very sorry to tell you this, because this is what we have been doing in this country.
Now, we're still talking about the efforts made by the authorities so far, from the fiscal side to encourage local content to the monetary authorities that have been promoting local investments domestically lately. How would you assess these initiatives so far?
Oh, fantastic. Look, I'm a critic of any government that does not do well. When this government started in 2015, I gave them that I said, let's give them some time to see what they could do. And over a period of time, I saw bad policies. I criticized the government. I continuously criticized. Now I'm seeing new good policies. And I'm now in bed with the government. And the people will say, Odilim, why did you change? I said, I don't change. My opinion remains. It is when a government policy changes towards my opinion, and that I have no option but to join the government. So this government is doing fantastically well. What we need to do is to create more incentives for small businesses, reduce the tax burden on them, and of course, ensure that imported goods are made difficult to enter this country, no matter who is bringing it in. And of course, the monetary policy people must put pressure on banks to reduce interest rate. If they do not reduce interest rate, what CBN is doing, CBN should work with the investment ministry to ensure that a new bank is created. That bank is Equity Investment Bank of Nigeria, which will be the hub of all small businesses that have great ideas, that want to turn their ideas to big products and services. That is what we need to do. And we must do it the earlier we do it, the better, because a post-coronavirus economy is going to be a knowledge economy. It's going to be an e-economy. It's no longer going to be the traditional economy where you produce and keep in your store, you transport it and keep it in your warehouse. It's going to be e-economy. People will go online and do all the things they want to do, shop from anywhere in the world. And of course, you know that very soon African economy will become, there will be free trade across Africa. It is time Nigeria did something to ensure that Nigeria is a major competitor in Africa.
How sustainable are some of the investments that the CBN has supported today?
It's a fantastic question you ask. I'm a supporter of CBN, but that's why I'm saying that CBN, you have to be very careful, because MFLA has good intention, and there's no doubt about it. I'm really impressed with his unconventional approach, which is what America is doing. So many countries are doing it, and he has actually scaled through and do that. But the problem is that it has no legal teeth. So there's a need for CBN, Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Trade and Investment to sit down and ensure that they move this away from CBN. Because CBN is a regulator. A regulator is not a player in the same field, he regulates. So I want a possibility of a bank that will do these things CBN is doing, because we can never rely on commercial banks. We can never, because they are disappointed and they continue to disappoint. But also, it's not their fault anyway. But I won't blame them because they are dealing with investors, depositors' money, and the depositors and investors are looking for maximizing their profit. But be it as it may, and because it's a fractional reserve bank, it is just keeping a fraction of the deposits and goes around to chase easy money, easy profit. So what we need to do is to bypass them, and CBN has done that. But we have to solidify that by creating a law around it and make sure it is moved away from CBN so that CBN cannot be a regulator and a player.
All right, Mr. Enwegbara, please hold on to your thoughts. We'll continue this conversation in just a moment. Welcome back. We still have development economist and the chairman of Pan-African Development Corporation, Mr. Odilim Enwegbara, with us talking about domestic investments in the country. Mr. Enwegbara, thanks for staying with us. Now, do you see the completion of some of the ongoing capital projects, such as the AKK gas pipeline, the railway projects, the Presidential Power Initiative, mobilizing DDIs in the future?
This is a beautiful question, but let me say it in this way. I'm a pro-private sector. Look around the world, no major nation is dependent on government because government is not a good investor. Government is not market-driven, profit-driven. Government is politically driven in its investments. So I think what we need to do as a country, because time is no longer
All right, we'll continue the conversation with Mr. Enwegbara in just a moment, but let's just do a quick recap of the crude oil market. Of course, down today as mounting coronavirus cases worldwide and in the United States undercut market confidence in a pickup in fuel demand. Brent crude was down 0.4% this morning at about $44.27 a barrel, and US WTI was also down 0.4% at $41.53 a barrel. That contract ended Tuesday's trading 1.7% higher, and that, of course, has been the highest close since late July. Coronavirus cases continue to rise in the United States, and deaths are at more than 1,000 a day, and dozens of states have had to pause or scale back plans to reopen their economies. All right, while we wait to have Dr. Enwegbara back on the program, let's just touch up on activities at the Nigerian equities market yesterday. Of course, the all-share index rose again 0.31% at 24,841.94. And this was driven by gains from Nigerian breweries, some Chairman banking stocks, and Seplat. And as a result of those positive sentiments, we saw the month-to-date gain increase to 0.06%, and year-to-date loss moderated to minus 7.5%. We have Dr. Odilim Enwegbara back with us to continue the conversation. Earlier on, you were talking to us about some of the ongoing capital projects and the role that they may possibly play in encouraging more DDIs in the country.
Yes, the question could be, somebody could reverse it and say, why is it that the Gencos and the Discos are not performing if we have to privatize? But I will tell you the problem is that when government was privatizing the Gencos and the Discos, actually politicians presented their fronts to buy those things without the technical and financial muscles. So I think that going forward, we must sell off all these things. I'm a believer in private sector because government is politically motivated in its investment. Now, what are you talking about? How should you continue to build roads when you could actually build a system that make people to pay while they use the road? Each road they use, they pay for it. And investors will see the profit margins and invest in this. And we have world-class roads like anywhere in the world. Government cannot build the 21st century roads. Government cannot build 21st century rails. Government cannot build the 21st century airports. Government cannot build the 21st century hospitals or universities. We must privatize all these things. But a strong regulatory system must be in place that is politically blind, so that the private sector Nigerians will enter into the business knowing fully well that they're competing among themselves. They're not competing with the government. That's not a profit maximizer, not profit maker.
We would like to thank you, development economist and chairman of Pan-African Development Corporation, Mr. Odilim Enwegbara, for speaking with us on the program.
Thank you for having me.